All right. Good evening, everybody. For those of you that are still up this time of the night or morning, figured we'd go ahead and come out. Kids have already had their Christmas and done all that good stuff, so we come out here to play. I got one of my Christmas. Actually, I've got two of my Christmas presents that we're playing with actually right now as we speak. One of which got another new camera. Hopefully, this one's going to be a lot better. And I got some new LED lighting for under the shelf where I usually have for my watt meters and stuff. So, good evening, Scott, or good morning. So, yeah, so we figured we'd get out here, like I said, and see if we can't get something done. Give me a second here. I'm going to grab me a drink out of the fridge. Kick back with another cool Mountain Dew. Here lately, I think I've been running on that stuff. Oh, man. Hopefully, everybody's had a great Christmas. We celebrate here at the house. We celebrate on Christmas Eve. And that way we've got all day during Christmas Day to actually be able to play with the new stuff that we got. So that's where we're at today. Kind of kick back here, like I said, just doing our thing. Just a second here, I'm gonna get one little thing here. And we've got a few locals that are out here talking this evening too. If we would or not, we usually do every year. All righty. The bomb in Nashville? I hadn't heard anything about that. That's definitely news I had no idea about. Figure out how the heck I'm gonna get in here on this one. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about it, but I haven't listened to the news at all today. So, um, yeah, that's incredibly shocking in multiple different aspects. I haven't even heard the guys here on the radio this evening, and I've got a couple of them that they listen to almost every form of the news. By Nashville, I presume you're meaning Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, that does not surprise me, Warren. We've had well, we've had some pretty interesting things happen all year, so to a certain extent, that doesn't surprise me. Disappoints me, but it doesn't surprise me. It's just sad that some of this stuff goes on nowadays. I don't know. I don't know if anybody has laid claim to that yet or not. That's definitely going to be something that here after a while I'm going to get online and see if I can find any info out on it. least one of the nice things I gotta say is at least I have got the largest part of this thing taken care of as far as on the repair pages. Just taking care of a few little piddly things here and there, and putting back in the feedbacks, stuff like that. But oh, so you were in the middle of it, so to speak. Holy cow! Yeah, I didn't realize that you were right there in the middle of it, so to speak. Gee, oh, that's actually scary. That's more scary than normal. Okay, I definitely understand that. Yeah, given the circumstances, I probably would have done the same thing, Warren. But all I can say again is, wow. Do you know if anybody got hurt during the incident? My daughter sent me a message, letting me know she was going to stay with some friends tonight. She's going to play zombie attacks, I guess. There's a couple of these that just don't look the greatest here. Setting those off to the side. Ones that I don't care for the way the solder looks. They're probably okay, but I'll put those in last. Slid just a little too far forward. I'll hit on body the afternoon. I'm not following that one, but soldering iron there too close to the middle, so now I got to go back and solder that one, which that's no big deal. these are a little tighter fit to the board than what I normally make. Overall, they look good. Went back and tested a bunch of these to make sure that the capacitors are good on the feedbacks. I don't have any signs that they're bad by no means. But whenever you're going through doing this much, you might as well go ahead and take a little more time and check a few things. Well, Merry Christmas, Rat. Hopefully, like I said, the new camera is working out good. We're still using the Snowball for the microphone. I've had some issues in the past here with the microphones not wanting to work, but I don't know if that's been the camera issue, because that camera that I was using was about 4 years old, so I actually bought an updated version. Actually, Christmas Eve, I went out and bought it. So Snowball, I've had it for a while, but I'm going to be replacing it here soon. It still works, looks good, but I want something that doesn't take up quite as much room here on the workbench. But one of the things, I'll show you guys here real quick. Get it over here. Hopefully, these are going to be easier to read now. That was what my main focus was to try to get something that was a little more legible. I'm able to go ahead and dim down the lights there as well, if need be. And I can get up here a lot closer to the meters where I can get it in there. And again, still playing with it, trying to get the gist of it. But we're going to be able to read the meters a whole lot easier, I think, with this one. And that's kind of been my focus, honestly, as far as replacing this camera. I got it, and I got a new stand. Of course, the stand I bought it here just about a week ago. I bought two different stands, one of which I sent over to a friend of mine for Christmas, which was early. They're 3-mate amps. And I keep saying, well, I don't know what to get. I don't know what to get. So I went ahead and sent him a webcam if he'll use it. But sent him one of those, and I sent him a stand. Hopefully, I can get him talked into starting to do some live feeds from time to time. Of course, my work schedule doesn't allow me to do a whole lot, but about every other weekend. So this particular weekend, since it's Christmas weekend, it's a little easier to get in here because, well, I'm actually off. They were taking volunteers this year for Christmas shutdown to do different repairs and what have you, and I opted for the time off. turn those guys down just a little bit. Hopefully they don't overpower the microphone. But I don't know, I just kicking back, listening to the locals. I was in there earlier talking and thought, well, let's get something done while I'm out here. You guys got to see the new lights up there, and like I said, we're using the new camera. Hopefully, like I said, with what little you guys get to watch of it, as far as like on the meters, I'm hoping that that one works out a whole lot better. Like I said, things at least appear to be more legible in it anyways. Come on, baby. There you go. I don't mind using these small little disc capacitors on the feedback circuits. I don't mind it at all if it's 2 pill or 4 pill, but 48, I actually prefer those larger ones that I've been getting. The only thing that is, I'm concerned about whenever I do run out of those, what I'm going to go to next. So I've been playing around, and I'm going to use some on a 4 pill coming up here soon that I ordered, and they're made by Panasonic. I'm hoping if they work out as good as I'm expecting them to, I'll probably use those or transfer over to those once once my other supply has been deleted. At least wise, that's the intentions. Yeah, I sent early some too. Because again, we've been a lot of this stuff that is essentially through hole technology, as they call it, and where the world has all went. This SMT and SMD formats. It's been very difficult, to say the least, to find replacements for certain things. It's just like I've been trying to find a replacement for 2 particular diodes that I use for some repair work, and I ordered eight different variations in order to come up with the right combination. And out of the 8, 4 of them will work for my needs, and the other 4, they'll work, but I'll have to use those for something else in order to go ahead and use them up. Thankfully, I only bought like 4 of each until I actually found exactly what I was looking for, between the breakdown voltage and working with the inrush current on them. So part of that has to do with what you've been seeing here the last couple of amps, where I've done some biasing. Part of it is that because of where I've wanted to use some different I wanted to do it a little differently than what I've been doing it. Kind of like everybody else, they stick with, something that they like, and, there's nothing wrong with that. I've got it down to where I can actually use 5-watt resistors now. And let's see here, where are they at? It's the wrong one. There we go. Anyways, because of that combination right there, I can actually get by with a 5-watt versus those big 10 or 15-watt resistors. they do get warm, but they don't get hot. You know, I sit there and ran that 6 pill and that 4 pill, just for an example. The 6 pill, I actually talked on it for a couple of hours here the other night once I got it built before I shipped it off to John, and I was still able to lay my fingers right on top of it and leave it there for 2-3 minutes at a time without burning myself. So there again, it's not drawing as much heat, and it's still keeping the voltages that I need, you know, throughout it. So I've done it with that. The 4 pill that I gave away here recently for Christmas, I've got to get it boxed up. It's sitting over there on the shelf. Ralph wanted to wait until after Christmas, which I don't blame him. You know, under the circumstances, you know, we've had a lot of lost packages that people have been complaining about. Sadly, I mean, I'm even one of them. I ordered a roll of coax that was supposed to be a 2-day ship. It's like, okay, great. You know, I'll see you here in a couple of days, you know, maybe a day late, you know, just because of the holidays. It was 8 days late. 8 days. So it's like, holy cow. So, and then, you know, gave him the option. We could either send it out, or we could go ahead and hold it until after the first of the year, and then release it. You know, release it and send it back to him. So we went ahead and did that. We went ahead and sent it because that's what he wanted. Of course, I put like, geez, I don't know how much bubble wrap around it, and tried to put extra cardboard in the corners, and just all kinds of different things like that, just to make sure that, you know, it arrives as it should, you know, nice and safe. Which I actually need to send him a message tomorrow and find out if he's got it yet. You know, he was only normally, not counting this crazy time of the year, but normally I'm only like I think a 3-day ship from where he's at. So, but I know things have been falling behind. That's that time of the year. Absolutely asinine. Of course, this year I kind of actually expected just what we got, which is, you know, way more stuff being mailed to people, you know, due to the Christmas holiday and everything's been going on. It's just been, like I said, it's been an interesting year, and I'm like everybody else. I'm ready for this year to be over with, and hopefully we can look towards you know, bigger and better next year. And the same thing with here in the shop. I wanted to get some stuff done there. You know, the lights, that only took about 30 minutes, but it's been great just because I finally got rid of the old ones that were just literally burnt to a crisp. All righty. All right, so we got that section done. Jeez Louise. These are so much easier to put in. When it's not in the case itself. So what else is new, guys? Anything? Hopefully this summer, if I get everything coordinated right, now this summer, I will have another small building sit here on the property, and I'll be able to use it for some storage. I'll be able to get my upstairs room completed. I've got one room upstairs that's not finished yet, so I went ahead and talked to the bank and got that all set up where I can get a small little loan. I'm gonna go ahead and just get a new small outbuilding to put the lawnmower and just the just the normal everyday tools as far as rakes and shovels and what have you, and put those away. That way I can clear out some room in the garage, and then where it's going to be at, it's actually going to be right behind the shop here. So I'm actually going to take a lot of the boxes and what have you that's kind of got me cramped in here. I'm actually going to take and make a section for that. And that way I can go ahead and get, especially whenever I buy some stuff in bulk. As far as cabinets and heat sinks and stuff, it's been frustrating because of where I've been using, the spare room that I've got right now that's not finished. I've been using it for part storage, and then, some of it's out here too. So get that kind of all in one section and get it where it makes life a little easier. I've got some other stuff that we're going to be working on too that I'm hopefully going to be introducing. I was actually hoping to get to it before the end of the year. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. We're still finishing up this 48 pill, and it's been just like everybody else this time of the year, the proverbial rat race. So I've been fighting with that, trying to get stuff taken care of for Christmas, trying to get everybody else's stuff done. Yeah. I guess I missed a couple of comments there, Warren. That's all right. Not like the way that one's soldered. I've been trying to take the 2 or 3 that I've seen so far and go ahead and use them and resolder them. This one, it's just barely stuck. In one direction, it looks great, but if you got it out where it's in your hand, you don't think it's soldered all that good. I know when it comes to the feedbacks, I have built them in probably a dozen different configurations at some point, trying to find the fastest way to make them and keep them consistent. I've done two or three different things. In some cases, trying to find an easy method as far as for the, where you go in and actually are able to install them yourself too during a build. So I'm always trying to look at, what's going to be an easier way as far as method on getting some of these parts in. And if they ever have to be taken back out. Just well, you guys aren't very talkative tonight. Conversations, supposed to be on both sides, not just one-way conversation. Of course, I know if my buddy Charles was out here, I know he'd be yakking early. I think he went to bed early. Fat Cat, I know that's where he's at. He's in bed. As for me, I just work the vampire hours. So I don't usually get up until, since I'm going to be off until next week, I'll be getting up probably about 11 or 12 o'clock and going to bed maybe about 3 or 4 instead of, the 6 o'clock in the morning. At least that's my goal. I'd like to be able to use a little bit of the daytime hours. My goal here is over the next day or two anyways, I want to get this finished up. The 1,000 amp power supply that we've got to work on, that shouldn't take but about an hour to do it. Theoretically, all it needs is a power cord. So we'll get into that and I'll see what's going on and go from there. Since it was a match set, I'm really hoping that I don't have anything that I have to be concerned with on the inside of it. I'll find that out. Might find that out as soon as tomorrow, but I've got to go to town anyways and pick up another connector. For whatever reason, I've had an empty box sitting on my shelf for plugging the wall. Opened it up the other day and it is empty. So apparently I have used it somewhere, and for whatever reason I set the empty box back up. When you need it, you need it. I don't want to have to do like I did the last time, pull mine off of my power supply, just wire it on somebody else's so that they can use theirs when they get home that night. Because of the time frame that they wanted it, and unfortunately, for me to go to the hardware store, most times that is at least a 20-mile drive for me. So, I don't want to make somebody wait if I can just take it off my power supply and put it on theirs whenever they come to pick it up. but I've made some different endeavors with a couple of different people that sell product. Got a hold of a couple of different companies direct. I can go ahead and get some bulk parts, one of which is, there's going to be a slight change in the way I've been doing some of the, some of the biasing, but it should actually speed it up. Is what my goal is anyways. And I contacted the company direct that actually sells one of the relays that I've used in the past and that I've had really good luck out of. So I made a sizable order, which I'm hoping it'll be here before I have to go back to work. But I've ordered about 100 of these, because of the international shipping and all that other good stuff. Like I said, I've ordered 100 of them, so I should be in pretty good shape for a very long time on relays. This one's actually, if it fits in some of the cases that I've got coming up, if it'll fit where I want it to, I'm actually going to replace a couple other different relays that are used for different amps. I'm actually going to use with these from here, here moving forward. Either that or still with the big 30 amp relays that a lot of us have been using, which these are nearly impossible to find as far as here in the US without paying some pretty sizable money now. I actually contacted the company direct, and again, they want me to buy like 100 of these. 50 I can understand. As far as for me, that would be plenty for 6 months or longer. Well, hello, Vernon. How you doing this evening? But yeah, this is another one, like I said, I'm going to look into, but a little bit later. Like I said, I want to get caught up on Christmas first. Come on. Crazy things sometimes like to stick together, but that's what you get when you throw them all in a pile. Vernon, hopefully you had a good Christmas. So we're just out here kind of enjoying the evening. Kid, like I said, they went to go play Zombie Apocalypse with one of their friends. So it's just me and the computer, and however many amps I can fix between now and then. I really wished I had that extra, that other shed that I've been wanting to get. I wished I already had it here. I'd go ahead and finish cleaning out this one section of the shop this week, and make room for some of the other stuff that I ordered that I've had sitting out in my garage for the last 3 months that I want to get in here, but I have to make room for it. And unfortunately, right now, there's not even room for me to set it up and use it even out in the garage. But I shouldn't say ordered, but I went and picked it up. Picked me up a small benchtop lathe. That way I can start ordering some different materials and stuff and start machining some of the other parts that I want. standoffs and what have you, for amps. So, I mean, I've got many, many years of machining underneath my belt. So, yeah, I want to put it to use. I've got thousands of dollars worth of equipment sitting out there and some of the other stuff that I need. Is the audio still doing good on this, guys? Like I said, I've got things set up as far as with the blue microphone. Instead of using the ones that come with the are built into the cameras. So, all right, let's get so we can get the other third of this soldered down and put together. That way we can reach it. Good deal. Yeah, this bench I've got in here is that much too short where I can't catch these front legs. So it wants to rock just a little bit. All righty. Okay. Replace one resistor here on the feedbacks. And that needs to be soldered. Plug in the big guns. While we're waiting on that to heat up, let's go ahead and get these legs set here. I need to try to get my head out of the way, I guess. Yeah, I couldn't imagine building this. As far as a general rule of thumb. So whenever you consider the cost of this versus the cost of this and the needed power supply, versus just going ahead and running a steel tube. The steel tube looks a lot more inviting if you're running this as a base. If you're running as a mobile, it's a little different story there too. Let's see here. Heard my phone go off here, so just bear with me a second. Okay. Stretch. See if I can get one of my meters here out. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to get it out was I wanted to go ahead and test this capacitor because of where it was attached to one of the I'll think in a minute. One of the resistors on the feedbacks that is the most damage as far as in the light of everything. Focus. But anyhow, like I said, that one took kind of the brunt of it. So it looks like 98 nanofarads. 98 nanofarads. I think that's right. Yeah, 98 to 100. Yeah, so which is a 0.1 UF. So it's right in line or in the tolerance. Typically those are within about 20%, generally speaking, as far as a whole. I'm not even going to try to, just one of those things, like I said, I wanted to try to get taken care of. I've been trying to inspect these as I go along too, to make sure that I've got everything necessary too, and replaced as it needs. The last thing we want to do is put a part in there that's going to fail. And I've already tested several of these, throughout the entire build, or repair, I should say, not build, but repair, and everything has looked really good. Piece of solder, and if the big iron's hot, we're going to go ahead and start getting those transistors down the rest of the way. Let's see here. Bump that furnace up just a hair. There we go. one of the nice things is I was able to go ahead and get the board pretty well cleaned up, all things considered. We got everything neutralized from, those of you that's been with me. The discolorations on the board are due to a mouse that had gotten inside the amplifier. Because of that, there were several places on the circuit board that actually started deteriorating because where they turned green and they were, just building up. So, we got all that stuff cleaned off, we got it neutralized, and got that under control. That's one of the nice things too, where it's taken me a while to get back and forth on this. It's this kind of the big project for the end of the year, but so we just want to make sure that everything's done to the best that we can do it. It does not take long with this big iron. Get these grounds met. I know some people solder the entire transistor in one shot. Usually whenever I've got this many, what I try to do, because it'll take less heat, or there's less heat that's generated and it's being soaked up and staying, with the transistor, I actually like to go ahead and just solder the ends, all the way down through there, and then go back and hit each tab on one side and then hit the other tab on the other side. It actually gives the transistors time to cool, and there's actually less chance of damage on the transistor itself. Since heat is an enemy. I need to go back and see if my one buddy, because I kind of got to noticing this year, I have not seen, my one buddy from over there in the UK. I haven't seen him pop in on a feed in a very, very long time. So I'm hoping that he's doing all right. Like I said, I haven't seen or heard from him in, like I said, almost a year. So I'll have to go back on my friends list, look him up, see if John's doing all right. He used to be in there on a fairly regular basis. Of course, I was in there on a lot more regular basis too than what I've been here lately. But make sure I got whatever that was on the circuit board. I wanted to get that out of there. I know it can't cause any problems. I don't think it was metallic, but I didn't want to make an assumption and it be wrong on that. So if it's loose, it needs to go. And I need to turn that exhaust fan on. You know, later this spring when I get out to the garage where I'm able to go through and start cleaning and sorting some stuff, because I've even still got radio parts and oh geez, some equipment that I haven't used in years is still out there. Some of it, you know, I put out there that I would use. I just don't have room for it. I'm going to try to reincorporate some of the stuff back onto the workbench. I've got a exhaust fan, just for an example, that I used to use here on the workbench on a pretty regular basis. And unfortunately, that's one of the sacrifices that I made here about 2 years ago. So I've been relying on just the one overhead. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. It's not a real bad, horrible sounding fan, but you know, after a while, those fans get do get depressing in your head. Just one little tidbit. I can get it worked out. A little piece of solder. Okay. Sure there's nothing else sneaking in on us. Kind of like this piece right here that I just found. I haven't even soldered there yet, but that was slid up underneath that fill strip. So no matter how small it looks, I usually try to go ahead and dig it out if at all possible, because, for example, in that case, as you've seen, it's pretty good size. Just because you only see a teeny bit doesn't mean that it's not bigger than what it looks. Sounds like everybody went to bed on the radio. believe they all went to bed, so I'll go back to 28, which is where I monitor, and just leave it down. Just a little more on that. There we go. That should be all of them. Basically, we're going to be able to go back and triple check once we get to that stage, because we got to put in our feedbacks. So we can put our feedbacks in. I'm going to go ahead. Get rid of some of this rosin that has built up. Now, when I get the chance, I prefer to make my slots a little bit larger than what a lot of people do on theirs. Sometimes it's cuts in the boards. Sometimes you get just enough of that rosin flux. It gets in there and it will wick and pull just enough of the solder to cause a short circuit. So that's the reason why I try to go back and scrape, and then I'll go back one more time a little later on when I get to that stage of final cleaning before we're powered up. I'll go back and use a little toothbrush and cleaner I've got. I'll go back over everything one more time, kind of clean it up. That way we can get all of it we can. So we're less likely to miss anything. You guys are being awful quiet this evening as far as the ones we got out here. Now, this was the section that I think that where we had the mice that had gotten in here on this amplifier before it came in. This is the section that took the biggest brunt of the damage. Yeah, there were spots as far as even on the solder, as far as on the transistors. There were spots up underneath where I've actually soldered back down to the board. Whenever I had everything out here, I went back and I neutralized it. I've done the biggest share of this on camera, but there's also about 6 hours that's not on 6 or 8 hours that's not on film of where I've been working on this. So, like I said, I've been trying to make sure everything's neutralized. But I had one spot all the way over here that I actually had to clean about 3 different times and actually do an etch on it in order to go ahead and get enough of the nastiness off of it to where I could go ahead and finally get it neutralized and get the copper back where I could retin the copper itself. So that was interesting. All right, let me get the can of air and we'll blow that right out. What movies did everybody watch for Christmas? Any special movies that everybody likes to watch every year for Christmas? I know one of the favorite ones that we do every year, as far as here at this house, is National Lampoon's Christmas and Jim Carrey's The Grinch. No matter how old the kid is, those are the two that we always watch every year. So we watched those yesterday and then opened our presents. Seems weird because I've done the other two in reverse format where the input capacitors were on this side. So it just seems a little odd working it backwards. Beep, beep. Must be 1 o'clock. Touch a couple of those up. They're probably going to be fine, but well, good evening, Charles. So you decided to read us from the land of the dead, huh? Hopefully, you and your family had a good Christmas good Christmas this evening. I don't know if you guys celebrate yours on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I was telling everybody else I normally celebrate on Christmas Eve. You know, between everything that normally goes on. You know, which there again we've had. The biggest share of my family is now passed away, except for my stepbrother. So, me and the kiddo, we just stay with it as far as using Christmas Eve. Because Christmas Day, we always went typically to grandparents' houses or parents' houses and stuff like that. Again, just how things go. Go. Charles, what do you think of the new camera? It's part of my Christmas, anyways. His daddy got a new camera for out here. Worked on your truck while they celebrated, huh? Yeah, but I'm sure they remembered dear old dad and brought him a plate of food or something. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here on the feedback finally. I've been slowly getting rid of some of the trash that's in here. I've still got some of the screws that are still left in there, and the bad resistors. I said, I mean, it's not really been, thankfully, this thing didn't go under an extreme implosion. Which is actually good. It's kind of one of those situations where, he's seen the hiccup immediately, let off. But I think most of what caused, I think this particular issue, like I said, is where the varmints have helped him out. So if you were working on your truck all day, what in the world were you doing? Changing a fuel pump or something? Sounds like you had to do something pretty major to be out there all day. There you go. Yep. Yeah, the thinning hair. I have my child to thank for most of that. Oh. Glow plugs. Yeah. Yeah, that's no fun. Especially nowadays, because it's not like it was back in the '80s. Changing them in a little Volkswagen Rabbit. Of course, back then, you could get a gallon of diesel for like 48 cents a gallon. And a couple of guys that actually had some of those, as much as we made fun of them, we couldn't make that much fun because, gas was like 80 some cents a gallon for the rest of us. And, we're, driving the 74 Camaro that I did, got about, if I could keep my foot out of it, I'd get about 15 miles to the gallon, which was pretty decent for back then, but, I get 15 miles to the gallon. They'd get like, what was it, 38 to 40 miles to the gallon out of the Rabbit, so for $2, they could drive all night, especially back whenever we could cruise. They could drive and hang out all night for, $2, $2-3 max, and, cost 15 for a tank of gas in the Camaro, and away we went. Did get to talk to one of my other buddies today. Well, actually, two of them. One of which called me. The other one I called him. Of course, Carl must have known that I was thinking about him because he actually called me. I had my phone in my hand, and he called me and wished me a Merry Christmas. We sat there and shot the bull. And he was telling me about some of the things they were getting ready to do and what he's going to do for his wife. I guess he's got probably one of the most expensive outcomes as far as for Christmas this year for his wife. What she wants is a new kitchen. And she wants, new countertops and all that good stuff. Oh, good Lord. He told me what the cost of it was going to be. And I about fell out because it's like, I bought all new appliances. Whenever I built the house, I bought all new appliances. I built all new cabinets, cabinet tops for a quarter of what it's going to cost him for a remodel. I didn't go, crazy by no means. But the most expensive thing I bought on my build was my refrigerator, and that was about the worst thing that I think I'd ever spent money on. I had ordered a Samsung refrigerator, and I fought with that thing for 5 years. 5 years, where the first year, well, I shouldn't say 5, 4 years, because for the first year, it worked flawlessly. I loved it, everything about it, except for the fact that it didn't have a water dispenser in the door. Other than that, I loved the overall, format of the entire, refrigerator. After the 1 year warranty ran out, I'd had several calls in trying to get it, trying to get the warranty, where I bought the extended warranty in order to go ahead and get it fixed, get this done, get that done. And during the entire time, they never did actually fix the problem. But every 6 to 8 weeks, I had to defrost the refrigerator. Nothing wrong with the freezer. The refrigerator had to defrost, and it was just. I finally got fed up with it. Pulled it out of the house, ordered a new one. Of course, I did not go with a Samsung after that. I actually don't remember which version I went with or what brand, but instead of doing the French doors, I went back to the old 1970s. When I was a kid, we had the double doors, side by side. So, with a little bit smaller refrigerator, but I like the color of it. All my appliances are black, and this is, I think they call it black stainless, and I really like it. It doesn't show near the fingerprints or anything else instead of the painted black, but eventually I will go through and replace the other pieces as far as the refrigerator, or not a refrigerator. Yeah, I've already done the refrigerator, but the stove and the microwave, since it's overhead, I'll go ahead and get those replaced, and the dishwasher, because I'm actually wanting to upgrade the dishwasher. The one I bought, it wasn't the cheapest thing, but it was far cry from being the most expensive. But I bought a pretty decent one, and it's worked okay, but it's not as good as it ought to be. And after talking to my buddy Carl down there in Texas, which I refused to spend that kind of money, because we got to talking about the dishwashers. And I guess the one that his wife picked out was like $1,500. And it's like, holy crap. So, but it's commercial grade too. So I'm really surprised because, it's just the two of them. They seldom get visitors. Of course, I did come down this summer and spend a little time with him. Had I known that work was going to keep me off back during the COVID shutdown, but I known that they were going to keep me off for as long as they did, I would have stayed down there another week and visited with him, and would have went out on the ocean and did a little fishing. So besides the glow plugs, anything else new and exciting today, Charles? I know as soon as the first of the year gets here, I know I'm gonna have to get back on my diet. I've gained about 5 pounds off of the holidays already. Jeez, oh Pete's. The last thing I want to do is, wind up having to take as much. Not much. Yeah, I just don't want to get back to where I was as far as on having to take all the stuff for the diabetic meds. So I definitely want to stay close to where I'm at right now, because I've been able to cut it back in half as far as on the diabetic medicines. But alas, I did decide to have cookies for Christmas. What was that? See something behind that transformer. It's a piece of paper. It kind of looks like. Yeah. Piece of cardboard, it looks like. Just hold on to that crazy thing. I was going to have to trim that one. That's the one that needed the new resistor. Lift there. Lift there. I know they don't have to be exactly perfect, but I do like getting picky sometimes. Alrighty. Finally got the feedbacks done. Jeez, Pete's. hour and a half just to put in feedbacks and solder 16 transistors down. Oh man. All right. So one of the things that I want to do is go back through and check all the different solder points. I don't leave anything to chance as far as issues. Especially on this output. Anything I'm not pleased with, I'll make sure I go through and check it, double check it. Sometimes if you can't pick it up, nothing works better than just a good old-fashioned piece of tape. You guys can see that little piece of solder that's on there or not. I don't see it on the camera, but I do see it. And one of the other things too, whenever I was going through this, looking at everything as far as the way this one was built, I was really impressed at some of the components that he's used. But given the fact that this is not, this is not just a normal 2879 box. This actually has the C series in it, which is the way it was originally built. So these are supposed to put out a lot more than the average. But he used a lot bigger power wire going to each one of these transformers. These are not standard 1.25 inch. These are actually 1.5 inch, 5/8 core transformers that he's using. So that was another big thing that I seen that I was pretty impressed with. The only thing that I haven't seen done this particular way, which has made me curious, and if I ever get a chance to give him a shout back, as far as on the combiner that he made here, as far as on the output, I'm not used to seeing somebody use anything that large in diameter, for the most part. But again, he also built this, in a series of 3, as far as to where this is set up in a 3-port combiner. So he's actually combining each 16 pill. Is the way he's got this design. Versus, for example, most of us would typically go 4, 4, 4, 4, you know, on and around. We would bring it up, bring it to something a little more common, what I would call a little more common. Let's see if I got one already pre-made, which I should have. Dun, dun, dee, dun, dun. Which is a combiner that's more like this one right here, or what's also called the wagon wheel. So, this is actually what I was kind of expecting when I had opened this up. So, the RG400, which is a great, definitely great, especially if you're doing it in the sections that it's set up as. Yeah, I was actually expecting, something like this to be used, as far as a more of a multi-port, if you will, on the build. So, but I've never built anything this large as far as a 48 pill, especially with the C's in it. 32, 32 is usually the stopping point. There again, unless you're building something specifically for the mobile, which this was actually built as a base. But that was an 8-port combiner, so which would be what 2, 4. Yeah, here you'd need a 6 the way it's set up. Yeah, you got 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so it'd be a 6-port. So it'd actually be a little bit smaller than this as far as for the input and the output. That's actually what I was expecting whenever I opened this case up. So like I said, just kind of unusual. But I would say he did that based on the amount of inductance that it requires, which is actually probably a little bit, which is probably quite a bit less, because he's only using a half turn, as far as on each one of these. Granted, you've got your inductor coil on the LC network that goes out. Now, the other thing too is going into the LC network. A lot of people want to call it specifically that. One of the other names, which is used for the same thing, which it's more of what I call an archaic name, but nevertheless, it's actually still classified as this, which is the tank circuit. And the reason why it's called a tank circuit is going back to the old tube type linears. Most of you guys are familiar that's been in it for long periods of time, are familiar with the old sweep tubes, the old 6LQ6s, where essentially, you've got your capacitance on the output. In most cases, you would have capacitance here, which in this case, you don't actually tune here, but you'll actually tune at this point here or this point here, as far as in the juncture, which is actually a portion of it that's part of the actual tuning circuit or tank circuit, as it once was called in most cases. And usually when people are talking about a amplifier in relationship to any Formula 2, they'll still refer to it as a tank circuit. But both names are actually correct for this network that you've got back here. There we go. All right. So one of the other things that I wanted to do is I've got to fix the power supply before I fire this up, because I don't want to put this on my 600 amp power supply. Like I said, the 600 amp power supply is sufficient for most everything that I've got here in the shop, or that I typically build, because most of the time you're only looking at 16, 16, 24, 32. Like I said, those are what I call the common So some of these I'm just going to just touch up just because I want to and make sure that there is no issues. And I've seen where we all typically put our little 0.01s or 0.1s to ground or 0.01s to ground off of each rail. When I first seen this, I actually thought, well, he's not really got that many in, because I only seen like 6 of them. And then if you get to looking at it from a different angle, for example, like the angle I'm at right now, they've actually went back and they put 2 more next to each one of the feed pumps. Well, like I said, we're just going to go through and just touch up a few things, especially since this thing's got a little bit of a ride that it's got to take. I'd rather put a little extra solder on some of these joints and know that he's not going to have an issue because of it. It's real good. Charles, you're even being quiet tonight, buddy. That's not like you. I got a few more jumpers I got to build up for Bruce. I put him off almost an entire year trying to get everything else caught up, and jumpers just seem to take forever, especially when you're working with the RG400. Granted, now I've done a couple of different ways, trying to come up with the faster method, which I don't really think there's any faster method than really what's been working. I know some people, it just seems like, man, they can put them together in like 2 minutes. looks good, but I'll freshen it up too. I guess something I was looking at eBay, I guess they sent me a notification. There's a couple of books that I've been trying to get. Let's see if I can get in here. Come on. Do this. There we go. Just like anything else, just something new to get rid or get new. Yeah, get used to. I'll get it spit out here in a minute. Another reason why I want to go back and resolder connections right in through here is because there's several of them where it may not show up on camera, but you can see where the pet urine, if you will, from the mice or mouse, whichever the case may be, is discolored, and it had some bad spots as far as along through here on a couple of these main lines. So I wanted to go ahead and make sure that everything was good there. The only thing that I've really got left is I've got to go through and check up underneath and make sure that all these lines, make sure that there's not anything where, since they love to chew on stuff, which I didn't find anything on the inside of this that's been chewed on. But I want to go back and double check all the main power wires. Worst case scenario, I'll have to actually remove the entire amplifier from the case. So depending on what I find when I go through and start looking at that portion of it, the way the wire's laid in there, it should be relatively easy for me to be able to get down in there and be able to check everything with with no problems. So that's kind of my goal anyways. I keep pulling mouse turds out of this every time I turn around. It's been crazy. Crazy. All right. Anyhow, I think good to go because checked all the outputs, went back and double checked, and we've soldered all the main powers again just to make sure. We're going to go through this again a couple different times as far as just checking for pieces and parts of solder, because that's the last thing we want is to get pieces of solder that may cause a problem, across the entire board. So we got everything on the output check and recheck. So next we're going to go back, we're going to check all the inputs, and then what I'm going to do is actually put this off to the side because I actually need to build some jumpers yet. One of which, when I talked to Charger about this, he recommended with this particular piece, because he actually remembers it. And he recommended actually using a 12 foot on this particular one. So where I don't have any pre-made for myself. We're going to do that, as well as try to make the ones up for Bruce that I need to. Man, that little piece there is not good. This is where tape is so handy. You can get the tape in there as long as it's loose. If there's any little fragments of dirt, pull it right out of there. The hairs, I don't know if those are mine. I'm losing my hair or what. Alrighty. Where's it at? I know I'm not going to get the discoloration completely off of them, but this is that Never Dull. And the cleaners and stuff that they've got in there actually work quite well. And if I want to spend hours on this, I can actually polish all those spots out of these capacitors. And my big thing is I just want to make sure I get all the green stuff off. And then we'll polish them up the rest of the way that way. Just a rag. Kind of let it go from there. I've worked on a couple of these already. So you just want to make sure that's all neutralized. The color isn't going to change how it works, but you definitely want to put a good coating on there. And what I could do is go back, pull all three of these out, and I may do that if it bugs me bad enough by tomorrow, and actually take these and polish these, you know, and reset my capacitance based on, you know, what it's requiring for each one of these outputs. So I may wind up doing that before it's all said and done. Like I said, it's not a necessity. Typically, whenever I put these in, which they're, again, like I said, we've had, you know, critters running around that have wreaked havoc. Normally, I go ahead and polish mine and then install them, and they stay nice and bright and shiny, pretty for, you know, long periods of time. Just using the Never Dull. So other side of that too is, I don't think he will mind, because unfortunately the board itself will never look as pretty as it once did. Not without literally dismantling the entire amplifier. And that's the other side of that too that we have to remember is, there's only so much that we can do with what we've got here. But what we do want is to make sure that everything's properly cleaned, properly sealed. And we're not going to have any issues. And it's all said and done. All right. Well, good evening, Josh. I see you decided to get in there. I wasn't looking at the screen. I was too busy cleaning. You can barely hear me. Well, maybe I was talking too far away from the microphone. Like I said, I want to try to get, I think I am going to try to get a different style of microphone and actually hang it from the ceiling down over top of the work. Either that or try to find a different location on the workbench that I can actually put the microphone itself. But yeah, if nobody tells me, I don't know what to change. So I'll bring the microphone a little closer to me. Hopefully that'll actually help. Yeah, we've been out here working. Work. It's about all I ever do. Aha. Now that ought to be a lot louder. Apparently I'd moved my switch on that so it wasn't as sensitive. But that should have made a sizable difference right there on the audio. Just doing that. Right now I'm checking the wires out. Thankfully, the way they've got these ran, because of the channels that are within the board itself, one of the nice things about it is since it's been done the way it is, it makes it really good because I can actually see all the way down inside there. Granted, I've got each one of these blocked off, so I don't have to worry about, potentially the same issue as far as getting up into here. However, I can't stop them from coming in to the back and making a nest behind the actual heat sink. So that's something that will have to be done as far as checked upon, which I know that the customer has actually moved locations. So, this isn't going to be in the same, that's not even going to be in the same building that it once was, which is also going to be kind of nice for him. But anyhow, he shouldn't have to worry about it, any kind of an issue like that again. Just because of everything. So, well, Merry Christmas back to you, Josh. Like I said, I know this has been, I know it's been a long year for everybody, but at the same time, it's also been the end of something that you've been looking forward to for many, many years. So, again, I want to say congratulations to you for that. So, what's going on in the big state of Washington? Anything this evening? Yeah, I was out here for a little bit before the sun went down, and unfortunately, that was right around the time I hadn't even got a chance to get everything fired up and ready to go. And well, that was pretty much the end of it. Uh, the skip by that point, the skip had went away. So I never got to shoot any Christmas skip this year. Which it's give or take. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. There's another pesky little piece of solder. Just keep finding little bits and pieces. Said right now we're just going through and making sure that there's no issues anywhere. Just going through and checking. I know lighting sometimes can play an optical illusion on you. But there is such a large amount of money tied up sitting here on the bench that so we want to try to make sure that there's nothing left to chance. So I'm actually making sure, since there's a little bit of room in between on these capacitors, I'm trying to make sure that there's nothing underneath and that they are not grounded out in any way, shape, or form. Something loose here. I think this one underneath the transformer. Let's get a can of air and find out. There it is. Not sure it feels metallic. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that too. I didn't get to watch all of it earlier today, but I did go through and watch a good portion of it, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with it. Uh, and I was actually kind of hoping that he was going to do like he's done in the past, and build a little here and a little there as far as live. God only knows how many hours total that he actually has in there, because I know he's got. I know he's got it condensed down to 4 hours. For that particular video. I do have, like I said, I've got some new stands, and I'm, I've got my tripods and stuff, and I'm going to try to make some more videos as far as that goes. Going into 2021, this year's been kind of on the thin side, but I've really worked a lot of hours at my other job, so it's just been really hard for me to get in here and show everything as far as that goes. But I've got some new projects that I want to try to roll out for this next year. One of which I've made some calls, and we're going to be making some changes as far as with doing some R&D this next year. And I've got one thing that I want to roll out with going into next year. And I said, I know, I've got most of the parts here already for what I want to go ahead and roll out with. However, I have not had time to do it all. So I'm hoping to where I can get a start on it, hopefully yet before the end of the year. Granted, I know today's the 25th/26th, but like I said, I want to get this finished up. The 1,000-amp power supply, which it won't take long. I've already got the cord for it. Just got to get it on. Check the tune on this. Go back and touch up what needs to be touched up as far as on either the input or the output. Chances are I won't have to change these three here. There shouldn't be, with the lot numbers, and that's what took me a while to do. Because I told him what lot numbers that I had, as far as with the original HFE and things of that nature. So, he found me out of his order, which was a sizable order. He went through and, I think it was 150 transistors that he went through and made sure that he got me an entire 48 transistors that were completely matched. So, and they, as far as on the HFE and everything, there's like three HFE difference between the originals that were in here and the new ones that are in here now. So, essentially, again, where we talked about it, essentially I should not have to touch any of these as far as on the output tune. The only thing that I might have to touch up is going to be the output here as far as on the final, and on the input here. That is the only thing that may need to be changed. But I won't know that until actually we go ahead and get this fired up, which will be as soon as tomorrow. So with Ray. Let's see, from the UK a few days ago. Well, good deal, buddy. Yeah, hopefully everything's been going good for you as well. Yeah, the 2000s. I'm almost to the point. I'm almost to the point where I'm not even going to be working on the 2000s, much anymore, just because the amount of time that it takes. Typically on a Cobra 2000, when somebody sends one to me, generally I've got about 40 to 50, somewhere between 40 to 50 hours in one of those. So with the hours that I work, it's just nearly impossible. Well, as far as with Snake Customs, no, I haven't talked to him in probably 3 years. Is the last conversation I had with him on the phone. And I was looking for an oddball piece, and I don't even remember what it was because like I said, it's been several years ago. I know he's been buying up a lot of chassis as far as for basically the impossible parts to find. I've still got a working 2000 over here that I've not started stripping it for parts yet. I do have one more Cobra 2000 that is in the house that's actually a pretty nice one. Eventually this summer I'm going to go through it and go through and recap it. I'll put some of the niceties in it, with the hi-fi and channels. I've got a channel kit for it actually, if I get time to do it. It's not one of those that I'm putting any emphasis on, but I would like to go ahead and do it so that I can send it to a good home. I've just not had time. Yeah. I mean, the 2000s, I mean, they've always been a good radio, but unfortunately, you're looking at a radio now that even if you buy the newest one that was created, you're still looking at on a radio that's, nearly 30 years old now. Because let's see, well, what, like early 1990s is whenever they discontinued them. So, and I know the last 5 to 7 years, some of the Toshiba components, for example, for the I'll think here in a minute. Some of the components for the frequency counters. Now I know they haven't been made in 30 years for sure. And that's really the major thing that people have really had an issue with. The frequency counter typically even once they're rebuilt, because of the fact that they use a source ground in order to go ahead and turn the main body on and off whenever you're dealing with Cobra 2000. When you actually shut it off, because of the FETs that are in there, and I have tried many times to go through the frequency counters and be able to alleviate one of the little glitches that everybody has seen. It doesn't cause a problem, but it's an irritant, which is especially whenever you put the LED lighting in the meters and in the display itself, you don't have that current draw to really knock it down. But essentially, when you shut the Cobra 2000 off, what you have is typically 2.8 volts DC current that is still on the circuit board, and that's where all the lighting typically has its voltage pulled from, is on that side. So since it's actually using ground to turn main radio on and off through. That's one of the designs I still have never understood how or why they did it that way, as far as through the frequency counter. There is a way around it, so even if the lights are dim and the power supply can't be repaired to give you the correct, the correct format, where it alleviates the small amount of voltage that's on the circuit board itself. Because even though you're going through a resistor going to the LED itself, typically most of the ones we use, as far as the standard 5mm LEDs, they're only designed for about 2.7 to about 3.5 volts. There are a few exceptions that go up as high as like a 4.3 volt LED. However, that we use for that type of lighting. However, when you're dealing with that, as long as you are applying the minimum voltage required, even with the resistors that we're using to knock down the physical current, the voltage is there. So you still have that dim light on the Cobra 2000. But there is actually a way around that, which is essentially just putting a small 5 amp relay actually into the system and bypassing the grounding system, so that essentially all the lighting on the radio, when you hit the off button, will actually shut it off. I've had to do that on a couple of different instances, where replacing the FETs and the other components that deal with the lighting, as far as for feeding the ground, feeding that ground, where it's supposed to go ahead and bring it above the ground and not let anything pass, doesn't always work. And where some of the components are just impossible to find without buying a frequency counter. There's other alternate methods that have to be required or used in order to do that. But I do appreciate that, though, as far as on the magician part. Well, hello, 3. I see you decided to get up from your nap. Yeah, and there's a lot of us that are getting to that point. And it's not the fact that the radios are not good radios. It's the fact that what it's costing us is time to hunt the parts, or to find a replacement donor for the parts to keep yours up and going. It's getting harder and harder to actually find some of those. So that's the main reason why so many of us are at that point where we're going to have to quit taking them, because we're putting so much time. There's so much time that is getting involved in those, trying to actually keep them going and just finding parts. In the 2000s, like I said, has been incredibly hard here lately to find parts. Meters, you can buy the meters as far as replacements. Arcade Electronics has them. But you're looking at spending, by the time you get 2 of them shipped to you, you're looking at $70 for meters that technically you could take the ones for a Galaxy, even though they're upside down, and just replace the insert on them for about half the cost. It's the same meter, but it's not, But it's it's just crazy. yeah, just send me a link or send me an email, and we'll go from there. The ball on the tripod. This is actually the microphone that you guys are hearing me off of. You know, I want to actually get a smaller one, since I don't have have as much room up here as I really need to have. I'm actually looking to sell this one early because I'm going to go ahead and get one that's a little bit smaller. But these are great microphones, you know. They really are. They've even got a little thing here on the stand where if you want to bring it up, you can bring it up. I don't remember what size it is here as far as at the base. The base comes with these, but I'm actually looking to get the one I'm looking at is actually almost $100. You know, these I think new are like $50 or $60 for the what they call the blue microphone. But you know, whenever you've got it set properly, like I finally did there towards the end, you know, they do help. You know, they are supposed to have a lot better sound quality than what you get with the webcam itself. But that's another thing too. I've got 2 other cameras. I've got one, you know, the one that I'm using now is actually a Logitech. I've got another Logitech that's here, and then I've got another one that I may take it back or send it back, I should say, because I actually bought it off of Amazon. But I bought another one because I'm going to try to actually set up another camera that I can set up on a stand that's actually mounted from the ceiling that's going to come down, or further off to the side of the wall where I can be more straight down on something. So, but now it doesn't have autofocus. It's actually one that I have to manually do that. And I've played around a little bit with it, and I'm not crazy about it. It's not bad, but I'm not crazy about it. So, you know, but I've been, you know, with this new computer, you know, the new camera, you know, I'm still learning some of the ins and outs. And I think the way it's set up now, I think I can actually use 2 different cameras and switch between them with the setup that I've got. But I've got to play with it a little bit more before I actually, you know, do that. So, yeah, we'll see. But anyways, guys, I'm going to take a short recess. I'm going to set this off to the side because I'm going to take a look at this tomorrow after I get the power supply fixed, and then go to town and get a power cord or get a power plug for it so I can plug it in. But I'll get this tuned out tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get the main results on it. But I will be back here in about 5, maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to take just a short break, and I'll be back on another project. So it's going to be simple. But anyhow, I'll see you guys here in just a short. Like I said, just got to take care of a couple little other things. Have a good one, guys, and Merry Christmas. Like I said, give me about 5 minutes and I'll be right back.